I've made a couple of videos on this channel about misconceptions of anxiety, misconceptions of OCD. I think I've made one on misconceptions of feminism. I don't know if I actually put that one up or if it was too shit to put up. But I think it's quite important to put up videos about misconceptions, especially of mental health, because one, there are so many, and two, you might be somebody that maybe doesn't know much about mental health and you'd quite like to know what the etiquette or how to speak about it is, or you could be somebody with mental health trying to learn more about your mental illness. I think misconceptions are huge with mental health. I think a lot of people still don't understand mental health. I was watching a video the other day, and in the video somebody was sick, somebody threw up, and that made me extremely anxious and very panicky. And I looked in the comments and a lot of people were saying like, oh, by the way, if you're emetophobic or if you've got a phobia of sick, just a heads up, they're sick at this point in the video. And a lot of people were having a go at those people. I think that just shows to me that there's people who don't understand phobias, mental illness in general, and it's such an important thing to educate people and to try and reduce the stigma. So that is my aim with these videos, especially the misconceptions videos. I want people to become aware of what's not okay. So I made a video recently talking about self-harm, talking about my self-harm story, that I used to self-harm, talking about how it's maybe quite embarrassing or it may vary. It's quite a complicated thing, I think, self-harm. It's maybe quite hard to understand if you're somebody that hasn't or doesn't self-harm, which is why I wanted to make a misconceptions video, because it's maybe something that's quite hard to understand, and it's something that has a lot of misconceptions surrounding it, so I thought I would make a video and try and talk about them. The first misconception, and the misconception that I faced, is that people think that all people self-harm for the same reason. People think that self-harm is like a mental illness within itself, I suppose. And firstly, some people self-harm that don't have mental illness. Secondly, you could have depression, you could have anxiety. Self-harm you can self-harm for a number of different reasons. To maybe as for a cry for help, to try and get people to help you out and you don't know how to ask them. It could be because somebody might self-harm because they feel like they want to punish themselves, because they feel blame and guilt. People might want to self-harm because it's the only way they know how to get their emotions out. There's so many reasons why somebody might self-harm, and it's not all the same reason. Secondly, not all people that self-harm because they're suicidal. Those two things could be cousins, like close cousins. Those two things could go hand in hand, but a lot of the time I would say, in my experience, people don't tend to self-harm to try and commit suicide. I think that's quite extreme. Self-harm is very, very different from suicide. Somebody that self-harms might not even have suicide in their brain at all. It might not be anything that they're thinking about. It's just a way to kind of deal with their emotions, and they don't know how else to do that. It's not always linked to suicide. A big misconception is that only teenage girls self-harm. This is so not true. And I think this is probably one of the most dangerous misconceptions. Firstly, because I think you're belittling teenage girls that do self-harm. I think you're saying, oh, it's just a phase. And also because there are middle-aged men who self-harm, and we shouldn't, I think if we have a stereotype that only teenage girls do it, they might become even more embarrassed about what they're doing, and they might become even more wary about reaching out for help. So I think it's really important for everybody to know that it's not just teenage girls that self-harm. Of course it's not. Self-harm can happen to anybody, and self-harm can be a real, self-harm is a really big thing. It's a real thing, and it's really debilitating, quite hard for people to deal with, and we need to make sure that people know it's definitely not just teenage girls that do it. Anyone can do it. Another misconception is that people that self-harm are emo or goth or whatever. I think this is fairly obvious why that's such a big thing and why that's not okay to say, because again, I feel like it's quite a belittling thing. You're doing it because you like a certain genre of music, or you like to dress a certain way, or you're just trying to add to like the vibe of what you're trying to give off. Like it's a part of your stereotype, or it's a part of your personality. I don't know, I think that's a really dangerous thing to say. Self-harm is a serious issue that should be being addressed, not being put into a stereotype of person. To me, what self-harm is, it's when your emotions get too much and you don't know how to handle them. That's kind of, in a nutshell, in a very brief summary, it's when things are so overwhelming that you don't really know what to do. that's what self-harm, what's what becomes self-harm. That's obviously just my opinion, and it's what kind of I've dealt with and what I did. And the final misconception is that people think that self-harm is just cutting yourself. That's definitely not self-harm. People that self-harm could be somebody that scratched their skin, they could be people that pull out their hair. I'm not going to name lots of things because that could be quite a triggering thing to do, but I know that self-harm is not just about cutting yourself. There's so many different types of self-harm. Alcohol abuse is self-harm, drug abuse is self-harm. It's the more open-minded we are about the subject, the more we'll learn, and I think opening your mind to not just viewing self-harm as you have to be this and you have to be this age and you have to use these tools and you have to cut in these places. Be more open-minded to self-harm and be more aware of it, and that's the best way to be around anything, especially mental health. I think that's the best way to be. That's all I've got to say on misconceptions of self-harm. Of course there's loads more, and I want to say if you're somebody that doesn't self-harm that's watching this video, thanks for taking an interest, because I think that means a lot to whoever you're watching it for, or if you're just trying to educate yourself more, that's really great. If you are somebody that's self-harming or has self-harmed before, I'm really glad that you're watching this video and that you're trying to learn more about what you're going through. There's also loads and loads of help places available, and I'll link places down below that I think could be helpful. Again, I don't want to belittle your mental health by saying look at this website and then you'll feel fine. Of course it's not like that, but they could help you, they could. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this video, and I will see you soon. Bye! That bye is getting worse every time. Every time I make a video? Every time I make a video, that bye is getting higher and higher pitched. I can't even speak. Bye.